I would like to thank Judge Kennelly, who presided over the case, for ensuring that I have a fair trial. I would like to thank the 12 men and women jury for the decision they made. I'm very happy and my family is very humble. It's been over 30 years now since this happened. I filed a lawsuit while I was on death row, fighting for my life back in 1988. And to see it come to this day, I am so happy with the jury and the decision that they made. I would hope that this decision would open the door up for other individuals who I feel is also incarcerated, like myself. And I stand before you as the living proof that there's other men in prison for things they didn't do because of the city's policy with the street file and withholding them from criminal defendants. I hope that my case be a catalyst to bring all this to the light and to bring many innocent men and women home to their families.
So just as one more word on that street file policy. So what happened in this case was Nate from death row was filing complaints saying, hey, you haven't given me all the evidence, you haven't given me all the documents. And the city kept saying, yes, we have, yes, we have, yes, we have. Well, in the middle of this civil litigation in 2011, which is some almost 25, if not 30 years after his trial, they said, fine, here's the file that we've had all along. And they had no excuse for why they hadn't produced it for the last 25 years. And then it turned out that file was sitting in a file cabinet with a whole bunch of other files. So a lot of the evidence at trial concerned these 400 to 1,000 files that are in the basement of the city of Chicago that contain material that are relevant to people's criminal cases. And what the jury found was the city has a policy and practice of withholding evidence, and there's maybe other people in prison whose files are affected by this practice. Does anybody have questions?
With respect to the application of this policy, do you have an idea as to how many people could be imprisoned wrongly as a result of this street file practice? And is it still in use today?
Well, it's hard to know how many people are imprisoned wrongly by the practice, but what we do know is there are hundreds and hundreds of files relating to evidence that didn't get produced to the criminal justice system. So there's been evidence withheld. Some people, may be guilty, but some people may also be innocent. And the practice was prevalent in the 80s. It continued, and our trial proved it continued into the 90s and the 2000s. And I don't know if it exists today.
You said multiple dates of the execution, Mr. Loevy. Do you have a number for us?
Well,
two execution dates came, and fortunately Mr. Field wasn't executed, or we wouldn't have had enough time to get justice. And that's another important point is about the death penalty. When someone like Mr. Fields could have been executed twice for a crime he didn't commit. It took the system a long time to figure out that a mistake was made, and that's a real good argument why we shouldn't have a death penalty.
When was the conviction?
The conviction was in '86. It was overturned in '96, and then there was a retrial in 2009. So Mr. Fields has been fighting this conviction for a long time, like 30 years.
Mr. Fields, can you talk a little bit about the emotions of this day? As you mentioned, this is a 30-year saga. Does this give you any sense of closure?
Absolutely. I'm a man that spent 12 years in a cage on death row. 5 by 7, I can touch all the walls. I saw men lose their mind due to the stress of death row. I watched guys who I befriended while I was on death row be marched to their execution. And I was with some of them one day before their execution. This day is tremendous to me because I know it was a great chance that I wouldn't have made it this day. I had times where I was under so much stress that I just didn't think I could take it. So this day is very humbling. And I'm so happy. I wish my mom was here. I'm just so happy. I'm so happy.
All right, if there's no more questions? All right, we have one more question.
Sorry. Why didn't the city choose to settle this case? Normally they'll settle, other cases involving, even allegations of alleged police misconduct. Why did they choose to fight this particular case?
Well, the city has insisted that they didn't do anything wrong. That's their prerogative. They had their right to have a jury decide. The jury heard a month's worth of evidence and disagreed with the city. So that's why we have a jury system. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Let's go back to Counselor. Excuse us.